The next topic we should discuss in personalizing your diet is your current health status. If you are a perfectly healthy individual with a well-functioning immune system, then your diet will typically be very different when compared to someone with health issues. And that is because different disease states and conditions have a major impact on the types of foods that our bodies can tolerate. A fully functional and healthy body is going to be able to tolerate a wider array of foods and have more wiggle room for metabolizing things like sweets and other less than ideal foods in general. But a challenged health condition is something that all of us will have to contend with at some point over the course of our lives. When our health goes awry, it is notoriously inconvenient and sometimes overwhelming. If you currently have a health condition, it is really important to pay attention to that physical state and understand to the best of your ability what is occurring in your body. This is especially important when it comes to dealing with chronic health disorders, and that is because there is often quite a bit that you can do in order to reverse symptoms and bring your body back to a more balanced state of health with the right diet. This is often true even if your doctor hasn't provided you with any real direction when it comes to personalizing your diet. Remember that nutrition is typically not in your doctor's wheelhouse, and so the power of reestablishing your health through simply getting the right nutrients into your body tends to get dismissed by the medical community. And again, that's because the subject of nutrition may not be something they know a lot about. I'd like to tell you about Dr. Terry Wahls and how she managed to bring her body back to life after being diagnosed with a supposedly irreversible autoimmune condition. When Dr. Wahls was 48, she had to start using a tilt-recline wheelchair. She'd been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a disease that can disrupt the brain's ability to communicate with muscles. She was taking all of the most expensive drugs and receiving all of the most innovative treatments and therapies to try and slow the progression of her illness. These medications may have worked just a little to slow things down, but they certainly weren't bringing her back to health. She followed the guidance of her doctors and took her prescribed medication for 7 years. Being a medical doctor herself, Terry was relatively invested in the treatments that Western medicine had to offer. She had committed her entire life to treating diseases with Western medication, and she believed that the meds could possibly help. But despite her good faith, she continued to decline anyway. The picture on the right is Dr. Wahls reclined in a zero-gravity chair because she could no longer sit in a regular chair. Her disease had progressed too much, and her body had lost a great deal of functionality. She could only walk short distances, but she had to use 2 canes. Her memory and cognitive function was worse than ever, and she was constantly losing keys, her phone, and other important items. She began to do research on PubMed every night, desperately searching for something that could help her relieve some of her pain. After months of midnight digging, her shovel hit some interesting nuggets. Terry then looked into what was known about mitochondria upkeep. In one study, mice with an accelerated aging syndrome that were given a mixture of 31 specific nutrients lived longer lives. This flood of good nutrients, the authors suggested, protected against mitochondrial dysfunction among other mechanisms of aging. And at this moment, her attention shifted away from pharmaceutical drugs and her mind landed on the question, how can I get the nutrients that my body needs in order to heal itself? This was a profound moment in her life. Simply by shifting her attention and asking different questions, she was able to discover something that changed her life forever. This was the moment that she decided to change her life by changing her diet. She discovered nutrient-dense foods and forever swore off all of the processed foods that were so devoid of nutrients. Terry started eating 12 cups a day of berries and vegetables in the form of beets, mushrooms, broccoli, blueberries, cabbage, and of course kale. She made sure she got a variety of greens and deeply colored produce. She sprinkled nutrient-dense kelp powder and green tea extract on her meals. She also embraced nuts, avocados, coconut milk, and coconut oil for their fats. She consumed grass-fed beef and oily fish too, which supplied valuable omega-3s. Organ meat became an essential part of her diet, as the organs of animals are among the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. What she found in the process of changing her diet was nothing short of a miracle. Not only did her MS symptoms stop progressing, they started to reverse. Let me repeat that. The symptoms of multiple sclerosis, a disease that was previously known in the medical community to be degenerative and incurable, began to reverse in this woman. Within 3 months, she could walk with only 1 cane, and the month after that, she no longer needed a cane to walk. At home, everyone in the family was certainly aware of her increased mobility, but they had little faith that it was more than a last hurrah on a downward trip. Just one of those things that randomly happens with a reliably confusing disease. She still had a degenerative illness, one that you didn't come back from as far as anyone knew. After 5 months of consuming a whole foods, plant-based diet and using other natural healing and exercise modalities, she was able to ride her bike for the first time in a decade. She pedaled around the block. When her son Zach witnessed Terry riding her bike that day, he said, "That moment means more to me than almost anything I've ever experienced, just seeing my mom on the bike." There are layers of wonder. Wonder at the fact that she could ride a bike again, and wonder that such a regular act could be so wondrous. 9 months into this way of eating, she could ride 18 miles. Now she travels around the world giving talks about the healing power of a whole foods, nutrient-dense diet. When she travels through airports, she doesn't eat at all on those days. Those become extended fasting days, and she usually has no problems because she has developed a great deal of metabolic flexibility. This is the story of how Dr. Terry Wahls reversed symptoms of multiple sclerosis. It's the story of how a really determined person discovered her power to change her health and impact the outcome of her life simply by personalizing her diet. Because of people like her, modern medicine is evolving. We are giving the power of health back to individuals by teaching people that you can, to a large degree, write your own script when it comes to health. Now, of course, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't add this disclaimer. It doesn't always turn out for the best. Sometimes health conditions overwhelm the body beyond its capacity to heal. But if there is a chance that we can make a profound difference in the overall quality and longevity of our lives by simply personalizing a diet that is based on whole, nutrient-dense foods, then why on earth would we not give ourselves that fighting chance? When you're thinking about personalizing your diet, the most important question that you should ask yourself is, what are my limitations? Limitations are incredibly important in every area of life because they set the boundaries and let us know where the safe zone is and where we should not bother to venture. And whether our limitations are set intentionally or by some greater force outside of our control, one thing remains true. Many of these disease states can be successfully navigated and sometimes even reversed when we create mindful boundaries for ourselves. Once we know what our limitations are, then we are able to build a personalized diet and lifestyle for ourselves that really matches the reality that we want to experience.